Toothpaste Millionaire, chapters 4, 5, and 6. The next afternoon, when I stopped by Rufus's house to borrow his bike pump, he had about 50 bowls and pans scattered around the kitchen. "What are you making?" I asked. "I already made it," Rufus said. He handed me a spoon and a bowl with some white stuff in it. I took a spoonful. "Don't eat it," Rufus said. "Just taste it. Rub a little on your teeth." I tried a little. "How does it taste?" Rufus asked. "Not bad," I said. "Better than the kind my mother buys in the pink and white striped tube. How'd you get it to taste so good?" "A drop of peppermint oil," Rufus said. "But I've got other flavors too." He pushed 3 other pots of paste across the table. The first one had a spicy taste. "Clove flavored," Rufus said. "You like it?" "I don't know," I said. "It's interesting." "Try this one." The next sample had a sweet taste. "Vanilla," I guessed. "Right," Rufus said. "I like vanilla," I said, "in milkshakes or ice cream, but it doesn't seem quite right in toothpaste. Too sweet." "This one won't be too sweet," Rufus said, handing me another sample. "Ugh," I said, and ran to the sink to wash out my mouth. "What did you put in that?" "Curry powder," Rufus said. "You don't like it?" "I thought it tasted like a good shrimp curry." "Maybe it does," I said, "but I don't like curry." Rufus looked disappointed. "I don't suppose you'd like it almond flavored either," he said. "I made some of that too, but I decided not too many people would take to almond." "What flavor is in that big plastic pan?" I asked. "You've got enough of that kind to frost 27 cakes." "That's no kind yet," Rufus said. "That's just 79 cents worth of the stuff that goes in the paste. I didn't want to flavor it till I figured out the best taste." "What does it taste like plain?" I asked. "Well," Rufus said, "mostly you taste the bicarb." "Bicarb?" I said. "You mean all this stuff I've been tasting has got bicarbonate of soda in it?" Rufus grinned. "Yeah," he said. "It's probably good for your stomach as well as your teeth." Know what I did when I got home that night? I mixed up some bicarbonate of soda and water. It wasn't that I was feeling sick. It was just that Rufus gave me this inspiration. What I did was to add a few drops of vanilla and a little sugar to the bicarb water. And you know what? It tasted something like cream soda. You'd never know you were drinking bicarb. And I like cream soda even better than 7-Up. Chapter 5. I forgot to mention another nice thing about Rufus. This afternoon, Rufus let me sample his first batch of toothpaste. He was trying to figure out how many tubes of toothpaste it would make. He looked at a medium-sized tube of toothpaste. "You must have enough for 10 tubes in that plastic bowl," I guessed. "More, I bet," Rufus said. "Why don't you squeeze the toothpaste in the tube into a measuring cup and then measure the stuff in the bowl?" I suggested. "That would be a waste of toothpaste," Rufus said. "We couldn't get it back into the tube." Rufus hates to waste anything. "I have a better idea," he said. "I'll pack into a square pan the toothpaste I made. Then I can figure out how many cubic inches of toothpaste we have. And you can figure out how many cubic inches of toothpaste are in the tube." "But the tube is round, Rufus," I said. "I can't measure cubic inches unless something is cube-shaped." Rufus thought a minute. "Maybe we can squeeze the tube into a cube shape," he said. I thought that was brilliant, but then I had another idea. "Rufus," I said, "it says on the tube that it contains 3¼ ounces of toothpaste. Why couldn't we just weigh your paste and divide by 3¼ to see how many tubes it would make?" "Hey, we could," Rufus said. "You are smart, Kate. I'm always doing things the hard way." That's what is really so nice about Rufus. It's not just that he gets great ideas like making toothpaste, but if you have a good idea, he says so. I was pleased that I had thought of a simpler way of measuring the toothpaste, but I told Rufus I wish I was smart enough even to think of a hard way of doing something. I never would have thought of measuring toothpaste in cubic inches, partly because I never can remember exactly how to figure cubic inches, and I certainly wouldn't have thought of making a round tube cube-shaped. Would you? Anyway, it turned out Rufus had made about 40 tubes of toothpaste for 79 cents. Chapter 6. Before I finished breakfast the next morning, there was a knock on the door. It was Rufus. He was very excited. "Kate," he said, "do you know what the population of the United States is?" "No," I said. I never know things like that. My father looked up from his paper. "According to the most recent census, over 200 million, he said to Rufus. My father always knows things like that. "You're right," Rufus said, "and by now it must be even bigger." "Probably," my father said. "The growing population is a very serious matter. Have you thought much about that problem, Rufus?" "Not yet, Mr. McKinstry," Rufus said. "At the moment, I was thinking mainly about toothpaste. I was thinking that everybody in the United States probably uses about 1 tube of toothpaste a month." Probably, my father said. And if they do, Rufus said, how many tubes of toothpaste are sold in a year? My father thought for a second. Roughly 2.5 billion tubes. Right, Rufus said. I hate people who can multiply in their heads, except that my father and Rufus are two of the people I like best in the world. How do you explain that? I really don't like math at all, even when I have paper and pencil and all the time in the world to figure something out. And at the same time, I was looking forward every day to Mr. Conti's math class. And how do you explain that, since that's the class where I'm always getting in trouble? For example, the same day my father brought up the population explosion, there's Mr. Conti in math class saying, Kate McKinstry, would you please bring me that note? Well, it isn't exactly a note, Mr. Conti. I see, says Mr. Conti. I suppose it's another math problem. It looks like a math problem, Mr. Conti. The message from Rufus that Mr. Conti got to read that day said, if there are 2.5 billion tubes of toothpaste sold in the U.S. in 1 year, and 1 out of 10 people switch to a new brand, how many tubes of the new brand would they be buying? The right answer is 250 million. It took the class a while to figure that out. Some people have trouble remembering how many zeros there are in a billion. Then there was a second part to the note. If the inventor of the new toothpaste made a profit of 1 cent a tube on his toothpaste, what would his profit be at the end of a year? And it turns out that the inventor of this new toothpaste would make $2.5 million in profit.